Again, I'm Joey. For all of you new folks, thanks so much for coming. You should have a bracelet on you. If you don't have a bracelet, you need to go see Sean. Otherwise, he will drag you out of here by your ear. Which hurt some people. All right, so a couple different things we've got to talk about. Membership update. We do have tonight your membership T-shirts, which Sean should be facilitating. Sean? Later, he says. All right, so they will be given out later. We also have Esslinger shirts for sale. They're a discount for members. Non-members, it's $5 extra. The Esslinger shirts, I believe, are $10. I think we got them for like $8.50, so we're only making $1.50, and that's all of our work and stuff and other stuff. Just make some club some money. The Esslinger shirts do look awesome. Discount updates. There is a discount going on. Is it today or tomorrow here? All weekend. So starting. Starting tonight. Is it 20% off all hops and grain? 20% off all hops and grain. Also follow our newsletters constantly. We're getting new membership details in there all the time. So you can go to a different bar, a different restaurant, and pick up 10, 15, 20% in various locations. So just make sure you go on there and find out all the different membership details. I think we're eventually going to put all of the membership details on our website, and something that we're working through, which I've been working on for the past couple weeks or so. As of 2:10, I know some people actually bought tonight, we had 90 paid members. It looks like we're going to shoot the 100 mark maybe even tonight. There will be a bulk buy coming up in the early spring. The store didn't want to do it in the wintertime because of all the snow and all the other issues that come with that. So look for a bulk buy, and that's a members-only bulk buy.
You think it probably around March?
March, so maybe even pre-spring. Okay? Al did give a treasurer's report, and for those of you who don't know Al, this is Al. He is our treasurer for the club. Our financials look good. He's going to, or is the form filed? Form filed by now?
It's filed.
Form's filed for the IRS, so we're good to go. Everything looks squared away. If you haven't been told, we are a 501c4, so we are a non-profit. So if you want to give us money, you're more than welcome to give us money, and you can write it off as an advertising expense. So that's for people that have businesses. We're not a charitable contribution. You can't claim a charitable contribution for us. Okay? A couple little event updates tonight. If you don't know, we have chili. I believe chili's up front already to go. And Aaron is going, if you guys don't know Aaron, he is our lawyer, an actual real-life lawyer, donating his time. Unbelievable, right? But he's going to give a little presentation on the laws of homebrewing and a couple other topics regarding some trademarking in the industry. Jason is here. He's our resident, what do you want to call yourself? I don't know. Dude. Yeah, he's going to present ramp. He's been a bartender for God knows how long, and all the different various aspects of ramp. I talked to Tom. If you don't know Tom, he's our resident Santa. We are having, if you want to this coming week, if only the people that are pouring at the Winter's Warmers, we will pay for your ramp certification. So if you are pouring, please let us know. Is there anybody pouring here at Winter's Warmers? A couple of you. All right, so if you want to get ramp certified, let us know. Shoot us an email. Tom's going to take the class this coming week. And it's how many days?
It's a few hours.
2 hours online?
Online. The vendors vary. I gave Jason a copy of the list. One of the vendors is only $10. Several of them are $25.
Yeah.
The one that's $10 will also let you take the exam as many times as you need to and go through the course as many times as you need to.
Cool. So if you do want to get ramp certified and you are pouring, let us know.
What if you're not pouring and you want to get ramp certified?
That's something we'll talk about.
Oh,
Hit me up. Seriously, we'll chat about that later. Okay, so March. Our March is going to be corned beef and cabbage, St. Pat's. We have a couple of different presentations. We have Nick and Fall Guy. Is he here yet? Going to be presenting their Kickstarter. And also, Sir Blaze, are you good to go for hops?
And yes, yeah.
Blaze is going to talk about hops. That's his Kickstarter there. Field trip. We have a couple of people from the field trip committee here. We have SD Candy, and they're going to be looking into a member-wide field trip, probably sometime in the spring. All right. I did hear from Amy down in Dogfish. Somehow we butchered Sam's last name in the newsletter. I don't know who caught that. It wasn't for me. I put it in there right, and somebody butchered it between me and the vinyl. We can possibly get a deal down at Dogfish Head. Barrel Brew. Jackie here?
She's not good.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Jack will talk about it later if you want to learn more about the Barrel Brew. I think that's going to go on sometime in March as well. A lot of stuff going on. Winter's Warmers. If you don't know by now, please grab a card. They're right next to Tom. Winter's Warmers is next Saturday. Not tomorrow, but a week from Saturday. It's $30 ahead of time. So if you're not volunteering, get your money in now. It's $30, $40 at the door. You get a glass. That's kicked. You get a glass. You get all you can eat chili, and all you can sample homebrew. There's also going to be some industry beers there. I know. Did Vault? You guys get us a keg? I know Naked is Nick here from Naked, or Misty is here. Jen called me. She's going to donate a keg from Naked. We have Second Story with a donation and a couple other places for donations. Let's see here. The chili comp, there are still spots in the chili competition. There's $1,200 in cash prizes. There's 3 styles of chili. There's vegan/vegetarian, and that surprisingly does pay out the same as the rest of them. There's also traditional red, traditional style, which is red meat sauce, no beans, no chili, or no beans, no pasta, and then anything goes. So whatever you want to make. That's the majority of the chili so far. Tickets are online. If you donated beer, you should have received an email. Who has donated beer for the event? Did you get an email from Jackie saying sign here for your comp ticket?
Question.
Yeah.
On the chili, if you sign up to make it, how much do you have to produce and bring to the contest?
Roughly 2 gallons. It's a hotel pan, so if you go up and see a chafing dish, that size is what you need to bring. You should spend no more than, I'd say, $40, $45 on making that amount, depending on your ingredients, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go get the boar, the organic boar with
Let's take an ostrich.
the ostrich, there you go. Yeah, might be a little more expensive. All right, so there still are tickets. There's plenty of print material. If you would like to go out to bars and restaurants and give it out to your friends, I just got 500 new ones. They're sitting there. There's a whole bunch more down under here. If you want to take some, there's the whole stack right here. Aaron will kindly hand them out. We are looking for sponsors. If you would like to, or if you know a business, your boss or whoever wants to sponsor, we still have some room for sponsorship. Chefs, let's see, T-shirts. Have you guys seen the T-shirts for them? They just got, I think, leaked online on Facebook. Brant put them out today.
They're the black and white
They're black, yeah. They look awesome. It's a black T-shirt with the sugar skull on it. What?
Pocket?
Yeah.
With a pocket. I think it's in the back, though. So.
There's a pocket over the pocket.
The glassware is ordered. It's coming here on Monday. All the volunteers are filled. We do need judges. If you guys know anybody famous, we do need judges. So any local, celebrity, any local guy, please let us know.
And let me know. We have 3 judges so far.
Yeah, and we're
For chili.
for chili.
Yeah,
So
chili
eat
judges.
chili.
3.
Yeah,
And I'm one of them.
we need 6.
So,
We are getting a library. Where's Dan? There you are.
It was a lot of fun.
Do you want to talk briefly about the library?
Yeah, so at this point, well, we gotta talk to Nick and guys. When are you ready for people to just start, dropping books on you? If
When am
people
I ready?
accept to donate, when do you have a corner to throw that into?
I don't know. I could probably make one pretty soon.
Yeah, so,
Probably within the next week.
so we put together a set of bylaws, library rules, whatever you wanna call them. It's gonna be basically more or less give a book, take a book, except it's going to be give a book to the club, and then everybody can borrow it for a month and bring it back. And it'll be free of charge. You read it, you bring it back, you keep it for a month. If you keep it more than a month, we hound you. If you lose it or whatever, you pay for it. So at some point, we'll have a shelf. Everything will be marked as belonging to the club. You just check in with the desk, and they'll sign whatever you want to read out to you. And we're looking for books donated to start with. So if you have extra books that you don't need and you want to bring them in, just bring them to the shop in the next few weeks, starting in the next few weeks, and we'll add them to the library.
Any kind of books?
Yeah, mostly children's. A lot of pictures. That's kind of the crowd you're dealing with.
Porn. Lots of porn.
I was going to
That's the
say.
second option.
I've got this huge collection of Hustler letters.
You can borrow
That
the
doesn't know us
porn.
no good.
The porn shelf will be in the bathroom.
Put all the pages.
All right, to get back.
Get it for 10 minutes.
Last thing to announce. If you aren't aware, I did start my own events corporation. Our first event is going to be March 21st. There's a whole bunch of flyers up here. Come take them. They're over there too. It's a March Wing Madness. Pretty much same idea as the Chili Fest, but we're doing wings during the NCAA basketball tournament. It's the first Saturday of the tournament. $1,200 in cash prizes. $500 for the best wing in Philadelphia. We are looking for volunteers. We're going to be looking for a whole bunch of other stuff coming up the next couple weeks. So it's pretty awesome. It's called Philly Beard Corp. Beards. Yeah. Beer Events and Radical Dishes is the acronym. We are giving...
Yeah, what is it?
that's what it is.
Wait, what is it?
Beer Events and Radical Dishes. That's
what
I
you say
keep
it
going
is.
with it.
That's what you
Sure. All right. $5 off to all Philly Homebrew Club members. So if you are a member, there will be a code in there. Please don't tell people because it's we're going to actually refund their ticket and call you jerks because we have the membership stuff. So all right. Any questions about the club? Anything else before we get into yeah?
Y'all still taking more donations for beer?
Yeah, we are. I think there's one or two more donations. Yeah, to Phil, definitely. If you would like to donate beer, just talk to either Blaze or Jason or myself later tonight, and we can figure out how to work that. There's a donation form. I'll send it to you. Make sure you can just always. Guys, if anybody has a question, always post to Facebook. Always hit up us on Twitter. That's empty. Or hit us up by info@phillyhbc.org. So just sorry. What is it? Yeah, info@phillyhbc.org. So just send an email to that. You always get a response. Okay? Before I bring Aaron and Jason up, you guys want a little beer break?
Yeah.
Beer break.
So I don't have much. I just wanted to talk about the ramp certification. I guess we didn't know that the club was actually paying for it until tonight, so that's great news. So we just met last night, all of the pourers for next week's event. So I guess the news is out that the club will pay for your certification. I'll send out an email with either a link, directly linking you to the website that we chose. And basically, I just took it about a week ago, and it takes about an hour and a half, maybe. You just got to go through a couple modules, watch a video, presentation, basically. It's pretty basic stuff. It's really just, reinforcing the responsible alcohol serving practices that we all should be conscientious of, and, especially come the event time, so that we're all on the same page. We're all trying to have fun, but we just have to make sure people are drinking responsibly and not getting out of hand, and, what to do if you see signs of that happening. Which is great that we have a legal presentation following. We just want to make sure that we're following the law, having fun, raising some money, and drinking some beers.
Just don't do what I would do, is hit them. So don't do that. That's illegal.
So we'll have more information about ramp. Right now, we're just going to certify the people that are going to be pouring for this event. We'd like for more volunteers to want to get involved for different events. So, over time, I'm sure this will be something that we can kind of cycle through and make sure everyone gets a crack at serving or, getting certified or whatever. So we'll talk more about that. But the servers that are serving next week, the pourers, expect an email tomorrow sometime, and we'll take it from there. So that's pretty much it. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions about ramp?
Other than being good to be educated on the good serving practices, does ramp certification serve any legal purpose for the people who are pouring, or?
If you kind of break the law, basically being certified tends to be a little lenient on you. It's really not much, but just in terms of fines, like if you were to serve an underage individual, our events are pretty kind of prepackaged, but as a bartender, sometimes you have to kind of be the one to do a lot more in terms of carding people, trying to, what to do when you have a table that sits and one person's underage. What are you legally allowed to serve the rest of the table? Things like that. So it's more kind of
I guess for an actual bartender or working in a business. But I mean, we are a nonprofit. We are throwing an event, and there are a lot of legalities involved. So. I think by the time you're done with his presentation, you'll be scared shitless of breaking the law, probably.
No, not even close.
But yeah, I mean, and it's really, again, just like basic stuff, like how to, tell that someone's drunk. I mean, we can't serve someone who's visibly intoxicated. They call it a VIP, visibly intoxicated person. If they're, and you feel uncomfortable, I mean, you as the bartender in the situation are kind of responsible individually as well as us as an organization. So, you're not absolved just kind of because, you didn't realize or whatever. So that's kind of what it promotes. And, and I think, again, it reinforces the fact that everyone, our whole club should be, conscious of the fact that this is our event. We're hosting this event. It's a lot of people that are spending money to have a good time. And we just want to make sure, people aren't getting out of hand and ruining someone else's good time. So
We should be conscious in general.
And
Yeah, I
for the
think you
record,
should be
while
conscious
we have
and conscious.
insurance, it doesn't necessarily cover all alcohol-related incidents. So it's very important that people who are pouring and checking IDs are very much on their game.
Yeah, I mean, if we do everything in that we're able to do to make sure we prevent a bad situation from happening, that will all play out better if something really bad ever does happen. Hopefully it doesn't, and but just in case. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, people that are serving next week, I'll send out an email, and if anyone has any questions, just hit me up. Yep.
Yay! Good
Yeah,
job,
Jay.
Jay. Are we
Way to
doing a
be,
beer
guy.
break? Or no?
All right, so Aaron, again, is going to talk about the legal aspects of homebrewing. If you do want to talk, please don't talk to her here. There's a whole back room, door shuts, and all that other fun stuff. So if you need to talk, please go back there. It's for people that really want to learn about all the other awesome things that Aaron's going to talk about. Cheers.
Well, you almost really like chili and beer, because I can't imagine that so many people would come that are not lawyers to hear a legal presentation. But all the same, thank you all for coming. I want to talk a little bit about homebrewing and a little bit about some of the other stuff that's going on in the brewing industry that I think is interesting. As many of you know, my name is Aaron Peskin. I'm a partner in the Ferra Law Group. Our main office is in Trenton, New Jersey, but I practice law. I'm Chris. I practice law all over southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I'm also the general counsel of the Philadelphia Homebrew Club, which basically means that I tell these guys not to sell their fucking beer, and they pay me in beer and food. So it works out well.
You walk him at all?
My background is actually not in beverage industry, hospitality, anything like that. Out of law school, I was actually a litigator at two big Philadelphia firms. I was at Drinker, Biddle, and Reith for 3.5 years, and then I was at Overmeyer, Redmond, Waxel, and Hipple for a couple years after that. I got involved in the Homebrew Club just almost by happenstance. I was out of a job, had a lot of time on my hands. Joey needed help getting this club off the ground and getting it incorporated, so it just worked out well for both of us, and I've been telling these guys not to sell their beer ever since. So, just a little bit of the history of homebrew laws. So, as you all know, Prohibition was kind of a buzzkill in the 20s. It ends in 1933, but what that means for brewers is that most of the breweries in the next 40 years or so were killed off, either through mergers, through outright failures. What Prohibition didn't kill, the big breweries did. Anheuser-Busch, Coors, they would all acquire these breweries, and a lot of them would close. Schmitz, Schaefer, Schlitz. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of breweries that closed. Regardless of your political affiliation, if you're here, you should be thanking Jimmy Carter. I know, it's insane.
Shut up.
You of all people, I don't care what your affiliation is, because the fact is you would not have a store.
No, it's him that was saying that. That wasn't me. I love the dude. He's my hero.
Exactly.
I'd kiss him if he was in front of me.
Exactly. Exactly. So in 1978, Jimmy Carter signs H.R. 1337. And on top of the homebrew laws, it just changes laws generally for brewing. And the pretty exorbitant excise taxes that pretty much were favored large commercial breweries that had a national or very significant regional distributorship are changed to allow craft breweries, and that really starts a whole revolution. On top of that, it allows you to brew 200 gallons a year, up to 200 gallons a year per household for personal consumption. The next one, you can see that this is just a graph I found. I thought it was pretty interesting. As you can see, I mean, Prohibition obviously put a hurting on breweries, which were already going downhill as is. I think there were 44 commercial breweries in 1973, and then Jimmy Carter signs the law, and there's almost 3,000 today. So it's that law has made all the difference in the craft brewing world and in homebrew. So, how much can you brew? Federal's pretty straightforward. 100 gallons per individual, 200 per household. If you got a kid who's over 21 living with you and you're living with your wife, tough shit. You only get 200 gallons. State law, it depends. Pennsylvania has a 200 gallons per individual limit. So, theoretically, under Pennsylvania law, you could be complying with state law. At the same time, you'd be violating federal law. So it's something to keep in mind. If you think the feds aren't going to get you, well, maybe you brew a little bit more. New Jersey has a 200 gallon per household limit, but New Jersey has some very peculiar laws about where you can brew. So if you brew at an educational institution, you need a permit for that. In fact, New Jersey, up until 2013, on the books was a permit requirement. You had to pay $20 to purchase a permit to homebrew in New Jersey. Now,
Was that per year?
I believe I don't know if it was per year or just a one time, but Chris Christie got rid of it because the general consensus was no one's paying for this anyway. What's the point?
Awesome. He's a drunk.
See, so you can love Republicans and Democrats.
I brewed in New Jersey for 20 years and never knew you had to pay it.
Well, that's the other thing is a lot of people had no idea that it even existed.
Yeah, right. I was like, what?
But it up until 2 years ago, it was on the books.
It was the tax on homemade donuts that was really gunning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's the. I wish I could tell you that homebrew laws are straightforward. They're not. They're all over the place. And in fact, one of the issues that you deal with at homebrew is kind of tied in with the 21st Amendment, which is that while it legalized alcohol on a federal level, it gave the states power to regulate it. In fact, there were some states, I think Mississippi was dry. The whole state was dry until 1968. So there were states where and there's still some dry counties out there. Ocean City in New Jersey, you can't go into a restaurant and buy a bottle of alcohol.
Circle liquor, baby.
Exactly. So there's Jack Daniels. I mean, the county where Jack Daniels is located is actually a dry county, and they actually have an exception written into the law for Jack Daniels, so you can go to their tasting room and because they know that otherwise tourists aren't going to come and there goes all their money. But the states are all over the place. In fact, 2 states up until 2013 just didn't allow homebrew altogether: Mississippi and Alabama. The temperate South. As always, yeah. And even now, their limits are stricter than the federal level. In Mississippi, I think you can brew 15 gallons per quarter, so every 3 months. So you're limited to 60 gallons a year, and you're even limited to how much you can brew. You can't brew 30 gallons in 3 months. You have to wait another 3 months, technically.
I'd be screwed in that state, huh?
You'd be totally screwed.
I think I'm already breaking the law. Oh, shit, I'm recording this.
All right, destroy these tapes.
We're not Nixon.
So the bottom line is that every state is different. Most states generally are going to let you go to the limit, but there are other states that will say, if you're going to move to Mississippi, just understand that you're going to be limited in how much you can brew. Now, on a practical level, someone's going to have to find you and prosecute you, so it's a little difficult, but the law is what the law is.
Are there actually enforcement mechanisms in Mississippi? The idea of revenue or something.
I would imagine in Pennsylvania it's the LCB and whatever other liquor control board is in the other states, but really it's meant for taxation purposes. They don't want you depriving the state of their tax money. It's really not about any kind of public safety or anything.
If you're selling it, then it's an issue. But
Yeah.
if you're not, yeah, it's gonna hurt.
So how can the feds track how much you're actually brewing?
They can't. Well, here's how you do it. If I was a federal investigator or federal prosecutor, I'd look at how much ingredients you're buying. If you're buying enough ingredients to make 600 gallons a year, well, it's pretty obvious you're not doing this out of the kindness of your heart.
All you gotta do is pay cash.
Exactly.
I throw out my
So,
first running. So.
If you make
A lot of
200
granola bars.
Hey. All right. If you make 205 gallons, that's really hard to prove. If you're making 1,000 gallons, that's a slam dunk case. I mean, you're buying enough ingredients for 1,000 gallons. That's crazy. You just shouldn't be doing it. So that's how you do it.
Pay cash, people. Pay cash.
That too.
It also saves money.
So, who can brew? This is an interesting one I found. By the way, I've concentrated on Pennsylvania, New Jersey because A, that's where I practice. B, that's where most of us are from. If you come to join us from Delaware, welcome. But I'm sorry I didn't look up the laws. Pennsylvania.
You can take his business card and ask him about it later.
You can. Pennsylvania, no restrictions on age for brewing. However, in New Jersey, you do have to be over 21. That is on the books. So if you think you're going to have a nice father-son brew day with your 15-year-old son, think again.
Interesting about the no restrictions for PA. Does that mean that the law for drinking age is based on commercial consumption of alcoholic beverages?
No.
If you drink your own homebrew, that's completely legal.
No, the only thing I'm saying here is that Pennsylvania does not include an age restriction for brewing.
For brewing.
That's all it means.
But if you brew a beer, depending on the alcohol content, it could be 0.5 or it could be 0.7 or whatever the line for an alcoholic versus a non-alcoholic beverage is.
Regardless of whether
you're still consuming it as a minor. So that's
regardless
still
of whether
against
it's
the law.
homebrewed or commercially brewed and sold, it's still subject to Pennsylvania laws regarding age restrictions. All this is saying is that you can't, if you're 15 years old in Pennsylvania and you want to brew with your dad,
you can brew.
There's no problem there.
Yeah.
Yes.
What constitutes brewing? Like, at what point is it brewing?
That's an interesting question. So,
Applying the yeast to the wort, isn't it?
Like,
That's-
you just
exactly.
like make work and do everything up until fermentation, but even at fermentation, like, you're still not really.
The Pennsylvania LCB has issued an opinion where they've said that you're not brewing until you pitch the yeast. So, you can make wort. Because technically it's just cereal beverage under both federal and Pennsylvania law. It's not alcoholic. Once you add that yeast, that's when you're brewing.
What about spontaneous fermentation?
Spontaneous fermentation.
I'm still adding yeast. I'm still adding yeast.
I didn't pitch yeast though. I forgot about it. Oh shit! I left it in my backyard. And happened to get some yeast on it, and
Yeast is still.
I just happened to run all my
You
beers.
just happen to get some yeast on it. Well, here's the thing. So, if it's
All right, cool down.
that's actually a good argument to make, though, is that you're not doing anything active to make this an alcoholic beverage. If it spontaneously ferments and turns into an alcoholic beverage, you had nothing to do with that. But that's in the case you'd have to make your case in court. That's the only issue.
We'll talk later. I've got some legal cases.
If you want to pay me, whatever my hourly fee is to do that, I'm more than happy to talk. But
Is it knowingly
Yes.
consuming it illegal though, regardless of how it fermented? I mean, if you know it's alcoholic, you're under 21.
Of course. Yeah, that was my point is these restrictions are only for brewing. They have nothing to do with consumption or possession. So, what can you do with your beer? As I say in every training, no sales. You cannot sell your beer under any circumstances. And the law is universal on this. This is for personal consumption only. Now, the other question is, so I wrote an article a couple months back, and the hypothetical I threw out was, you have your plumber come, do some work, your friends says, all right, I'm a little cash poor right now, but you know what, I just brewed up a great batch, here's a keg. That's a sale. That's barter. Under Pennsylvania law, under New Jersey law, under federal law, that's a sale. So sale doesn't just mean money for beer. Bartering of goods and services constitutes a sale. So if you're exchanging beer if you're exchanging your home brew for some kind of goods or services, you are in violation of the law.
So I got one for you, which is, I think, pretty common. What about beer for beer trade?
Sure.
Where 12 people make 2 cases of homebrew and everybody trades off.
Or even a commercial
Yeah.
example, Heady Topper, where you can't buy it in PA, but for legal reasons you're not allowed to buy it across the state lines. But can you trade for it? Is that considered a sale? Or
Let me handle one at a time. So Dan, what was your
So
question?
I'm saying, like, let's say a bunch of people get together, or 6 people get together, each one, brews something, we all trade. I take 2 of yours, you take 2 of mine, and we end up with a mixed case out of it. No money changes hands. I just have some of your beer, you have some of my beer.
Yeah, it's not goods and
That's,
services.
that's not a barter.
Yeah, I mean that's a donation.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, you're not expecting any kind of return. It's just that someone happens to say, "Hey, well,
Now,
I brought some
if
here."
you traded beer for a blowjob, now
There has to be. All right. there has to be a quid pro quo. There has to be the expectation that you're going to get something in return. So if everyone's kind of pooling in, there's no real expectation that you're going to get something. I mean, it happens that way, but it's just kind of a general consensus that everyone's pooling in and you take some with you.
What about mailing beer?
What about it?
Well, it's a yeast sample, right?
I'm not sure I follow.
So, like, is it legal to? So, I want to mail beer to Andrew.
Not in a postal service.
USPS says it's illegal.
But
UPS, you can do it.
if I label it as a yeast sample, is that
That's fraud.
Mail fraud.
there's yeast in it?
It's
It's
really
still
not. It's
alcohol
still
in it.
fraud. You're knowingly misleading the USPS or UPS or whoever you're doing. I mean, yeah, is it technically there's yeast in it? Sure, but that's really not the purpose of
But
it.
so USPS is now a private corporation, right?
No,
No, they're still.
they're still a governmental entity.
For now, yeah.
Their budget is set by Congress.
I was wondering because they're supposed to be moving into private, aren't they?
The US. This is getting really off track, but the USPS. The catch of the USPS is that they are not government funded. So they're supposed to be self-sufficient. So Congress doesn't fund them. Congress actually regulates what they can set their prices as.
Yeah. Okay.
Aaron, I'm curious about the commercial example. So if somebody has this heady topper, I trade him a couple beers from the shop. Is that legal? Is that exchanging considered value?
I think it's the
money?
same kind of idea. It really is no different. It's the lack of a quid pro quo. Yeah,
Hey guys,
it's
we could just
it's a friendly
discuss your
division.
beer talk after the presentation. That would be great.
So it's not. So that would be considered within the barriers of what we're.
It skirts the line, but I think it probably. I mean, this happens all the time. From a practical perspective, no one's going to prosecute
So
this.
not
but-
doing a mailing beer trade-in would probably be better because it relies on less issues.
Yeah, well, all the state laws are different about mailing alcohol as well. Pennsylvania is a little tougher than most, unfortunately, but New Jersey's a little bit easier. Yeah, I mean, it's easier to do it in person. You can theoretically do it by mail, but you have to make sure you comply with state law, which is all over the place. So, Sean Melody asked me a great question, which was that he brews beers for weddings, just friends, donates it. So, again, there's no sale there, but the state laws are all different about what constitutes household consumption, household use, or personal consumption. So, under Pennsylvania, New Jersey, the example of brewing a beer to donate to your friend's wedding is perfectly okay. However, I didn't research it, but who knows? For all I know, in Alabama and Mississippi, when they say personal consumption, they mean you're drinking it in your house, and that is it. So you have to make sure you comply with the laws of your relevant state for not only limits who can brew, but also where you're drinking it.
What about an office? Can you donate to like a friend's office, a friend's company?
You're getting into dangerous ground there, because if you're talking about an office, I mean, by nature, it's a business.
Right.
So, there almost is kind of an expectation of a quid pro quo relationship there. I mean, if someone comes and pays me in homebrew, the state's going to look at it and go, "What are you doing?"
Aaron, how about do a not-for-profit? You're affiliated with a not-for-profit. They're having a fundraiser. People coming in, buying tickets, playing Quizzo or something. You donate them and can't take a beer, let them just give it to people.
Well, that kind of runs into what we're doing here, which is that, it's the same idea. All of us donate beer to the Homebrew Club to do Winter's Warmers or Made in American Street. And actually, there was an opinion issued by the LCB a few months back that at first I was upset about, but then I realized it kind of put us on a little more solid legal footing, which is that if you have an event where you're serving homebrew, you cannot refuse them. So actually, our policy is that if someone comes into Winter's Warmers and says, "I'm 21, I'm not intoxicated, I don't want to pay for your chili," you have to serve them. They're a cheapskate. Feel free to publicly shame them, but you have to serve them. And we have little 2-ounce pourers for these people so that we can serve them, because we cannot. Otherwise, it's considered a sale. If beer is part of the price of admission, that's a sale.
So what if I donate beer to my plumber and I can't pay my plumber?
That's a sale.
It's a sale.
That's a sale. I mean,
That's called bartering.
Yeah, that's you can call it whatever you want. Functionally, that's a sale. Yes.
So I'm wondering what enforcement's like. At what scale are people going to be
concern. Like you sell 6-pack to your roommate, but you sell 5 cases.
I'll throw an example for you. Who here knows how many people in the last so many years were arrested for trying to bring liquor from New Jersey into Pennsylvania?
0.
You're close. I think it was 4.
Really?
4.
Over the last how many years?
I don't know if it was, I remember 1 year was 4. I don't know how over the last many years, but enforcement of this is non-existent.
And it's mainly Everclear.
I can remember 20 years ago when the state troopers used to sit in the parking lots.
Oh, sure. Look, I mean, there's all right. There's 2 things you have to worry about. The first is what the guys. There's 2 things you have to worry about. The first is what the law says. The second is, am I going to get caught? So, as a lawyer, my job is to tell you what the law says. Whether or not you're going to get caught,
As a homebrew store owner, I'm going to tell you what you can get away with.
There you go.
So, and furthermore, though, for our event, though, really what we're actually really doing is we're sampling our homebrews there. So we're over pouring people graciously by giving them, what we give them. It theoretically, when you sample beer, since we're not selling it, it should be 2 ounces or 4 ounces or whatever
2 ounces,
it is,
yeah.
right?
If you were a commercial brewery, you're supposed to give out 2-ounce samples, and you can't give out more than 12 ounces total.
And so for our case, I mean, it's similar.
It's similar in this, but we're not. The reason for that is the state doesn't want to lose its taxation dollars, but they could never tax the homebrew anyway, so it really doesn't matter for us. But it is something to be concerned about for sure.
But I mean, we're not just giving out unlimited supply. Like if somebody rolled up with a growler, we're not filling a growler. You know what I mean? We are kind of over pouring graciously. Like, is there not a limit? I thought
There's no limit on what we can do. We're not going to fill up a growler because we just fill up our own glasses. We're not going to give our beer away that way. That's just our own personal policy. But there's no law against that. It's a donation. It's giving it away. You're free to give away your homebrew. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. I don't want to get too much into transportation because it is really technical and really difficult to parse the law. All I would say is that some states require permits. Pennsylvania is one of the more difficult ones. Generally speaking, it's not a good idea to try and transport a significant amount of homebrew across state lines. I wouldn't throw a couple of kegs in your car and do that. A 6-pack or so is not a big deal, but it's just something to keep in mind. But again, 4 people in a year is not exactly a high-risk situation.
Totally fine?
Within state lines, it's totally fine.
Unless you're going to NHC where you have a van full of about, 400 gallons of beer. Which a lot of people did coming into Philadelphia.
Yeah, just black out your windows. Do not consent to any searches. That's all I can say.
How do you not consent to a search?
Say, I do not consent to your search.
All right, so, yes. Do I really need to get into the whole searching of cars issue? Because, no, thank you.
Can you make ethanol?
Can you make ethanol? Actually,
No.
yes.
With a permit you can, but not.
Yes, and that is why stills are actually legal to buy, because theoretically you can make ethanol. But, however, distilling for personal consumption of spirits, illegal under any circumstances. Illegal
Any
at the federal level, any quantity.
Rose water.
No,
It is
illegal.
unless you have a license to produce distilled beverages, it is completely illegal to distill. But I will sell you the stuff to do it.
It's not illegal to sell. What you do when you leave the store,
Exactly.
And also keep this in mind if anybody if you buy any type of still online that is fully built for you, your name will be reported to the government.
Expect to see a letter in the mail.
It is by law you have to be reported. If you buy a kit where you build it yourself, your name will not be reported because they're just selling you parts.
Yes.
Good to know.
Is it federally illegal to have a distillery? Like, what about? I mean, I was just up in New York, and they have these micro distilleries. Like, how are those?
They have licenses.
They have license.
The license, you're saying? No
Yeah.
home distillery.
No.
Yes, you can't do it for your own personal consumption. All right, so I want to get a little bit beyond homebrew because there's been a lot of, and I find this really interesting, there's been a lot of controversy recently about trademark issues between breweries and other companies. So there were 2 big cases that I saw recently. One was Lagunitas versus Sierra Nevada. The other one...
Right there.
There you go. It's coming up, don't worry. And the other one is Red Bull versus Old Ox Brewing. So trademark law generally is the protection of your mark in commerce. So you guys trademarked Philly Homebrew?
Nah.
You should.
Yeah.
But the idea is Coca-Cola trademarks.
You gotta call me out in front of a bunch of people.
He's playing on Simmons Stone later, so we're good.
Exactly. Coca-Cola trademarks its logo. Ford Motor Company trademarks its logo. American Airlines trademarks its logo. The whole idea is that they should be the only ones able to trade off the goodwill of their particular brand. So, and the trademark laws allow that. Trademark law it protects the first used in commerce. So even if you file, and this is the thing, if you wanted to file tomorrow, if someone came and said, if you filed tomorrow and someone came and said, I've been using Philly Homebrew Outlet for 30 years, and could prove it, they'd be the one entitled to the trademark. You have an obligation to protect your mark. So you can't, if Nick has Philly Homebrew Outlet trademarked, and he lets everyone go around town using it.
It's on my belly.
Yeah. If he lets everyone go around town using it, tough shit. It's you have an obligation to protect your mark, and that's where these are coming from.
Using it in competition, right?
I'm sorry?
Using it in competition.
Not necessarily. I'm getting there. A trademark can also be lost due to improper licensing or genericity. Improper licensing, even if you license the trademark, that constitutes protection, but you have to make sure there are certain controls in place to make sure that the licensor is not or the licensee is not using the mark improperly. Genericity is just generally generic. IPA, very generic term. Cola, probably a very generic term. It's made by multiple companies. There are certain items and certain words that are generic, and you can't trademark them.
Excuse me.
But isn't the Lagunitas suit over IPA?
No, it's over the font.
I'm getting there.
Wasn't it?
Am I presenting or you?
No, I'm sorry. I'm a graphic designer, so I know about it.
I know. All right, so the way you prove that someone's infringing on your trademark is showing it two ways. Likelihood of confusion, which is that if I say I'm going to be the Philly Homebrew store, and I make a logo looking exactly like that, except it says store instead of outlet, that's trademark infringement, because it's pretty obvious that someone's going to confuse this store with whatever store I'm opening up. There's also trademark dilution. The example I throw out is the Coca-Cola Motor Company. If I decide to take the Coca-Cola name and start making cars, well, there's no likelihood of confusion. I mean, we all know Coca-Cola doesn't make cars, but I'm trading off their goodwill, and I'm diluting the goodwill of their brand.
I like that term. Diluting the goodwill of the brand.
Exactly.
It's a nice term.
So, Lagunitas versus Sierra Nevada. Lagunitas sues Sierra Nevada over the use of the mark IPA. But Nick is right. It's not exactly over the use of the words IPA. IPA is a very generic term. The suit was later dropped over public outcry, but frankly, I think it was a very weak one to begin with, and I'll show you why. So here they are.
Not at all.
No.
Really, what Lagunitas was suing over was the font. You see,
It's different, but it's
it
close.
looks similar, but it's really not anywhere close.
It's like military spray paint font, and versus like an actually
They're both
designed
serifs. They both have serifs.
Exactly, that's all they have. That's the only real similarity. One
Serifs.
one looks stenciled, the other one is very much a kind of a very standard IPA.
Just to play devil's advocate, though, if you take the model of each one and put them out.
The other one that I thought was interesting was Red Bull versus Old Ox. Old Ox is a small brewery in Northern Virginia. I think they opened a couple of years ago. They're not very old. The name is based on a 17th century Virginia road. Red Bull has opposed Old Ox's trademark application, and these are direct quotes from their opposition. An ox and a bull both fall within the same class of bovine animals and are virtually indistinguishable from most consumers. And in addition, an ox is a castrated bull.
Truth.
Here's where it gets really absurd. Do these look at all alike?
Yeah. Sure. No, I'll take a Red Bull, please. Yeah. It's a weird.
This suit is, for lack of a better word, ridiculous. It is utterly, completely ridiculous. No one is going to confuse Red Bull, who's a multinational conglomerate, has a Formula One team, does all kinds of crazy-ass stunts. Two Formula One teams, yes. That's right. With a little microbrewery in Northern Virginia. In fact, based on this glass, it doesn't even look like they're anywhere close as far as logos are concerned. All they're saying is a bull is similar to an ox. The likelihood of confusion on this is nil.
Isn't that kind of the same sort of thing with the Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada, though? I mean, Sierra Nevada being such a huge company and being around for so much longer than Lagunitas was, for that matter, all of a sudden going after one of the larger people in the craft beer market in general should be like a, wait a minute, it's like somebody who just starts a soda company going after Coca-Cola going, you're using red and I've been using red, and it's kind of like, you know...
That's part of it as well.
Picture of the ox.
Right, exactly.
There is none. That's the whole point.
But you're saying that's why, kind of like why they dropped the suits, because basically they're going.
There was that as well,
and
and that's I think probably the difference between that suit and why this one's probably going to go forward is because Sierra Nevada is one of the oldest craft breweries in the nation. They are probably worth several $100 million, if not close to $1 billion.
Yeah, way over. Like,
they have the resources to fight this. Old Ox probably does not. They might.
So this is going to go forward, you think?
Oh, because they won't.
I don't think they have a choice. From a practical perspective, if they spend all this money designing logos, marketing, all this stuff, this is a bet in the company litigation, but they're in much more dire straits. Sierra Nevada could make Lagunitas' life a living hell in litigation. They have the resources to do it. And in the end, they'd probably win. Old Ox is probably going to win, but they might have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend it.
Will they sell
They might. There was a brewery that had the same issue with Red Bull a few years back in England, and I think the agreement was the brewery promised not to make any soft drinks of any kind. Old Ox has not gone there. They have promised not to make any energy drinks of any kind, but they will not limit themselves to making soft drinks because they want to make root beer possibly. So the other issue I thought was interesting, someone raised it up, I think Tim Durning raised it on Facebook. He was asking about, what was it, Tim, is Tim here?
Right there.
What were the two breweries?
It was Russian River and...
Russian River and Anderson, that's right. They both have a beer called Salvation. And... Avery, I'm sorry.
Well,
Avery.
that would be a fun battle.
Well, so in 2004,
there.
they actually met up in a room and said, we don't want to fight this, let's work it out. And they created a beer called Collaboration Not Litigation, which was a mix of the two.
It was pretty good.
So, with that said, I mean, it's a cool result. You know, everyone's happy. Theoretically, one of them might have been risking abandonment of their trademark. It's unlikely given the fact that they came to an agreement, there's a settlement, it was a licensing probably, but there's a possibility there.
What happened if the third brewery came in and said, we now want to make Salvation?
They'd have to get a license from whoever the trademark holder is.
Yeah, do you know who holds it? Is it one
I
of
don't.
the two?
I've not looked into it. I assume it's one of the two, but I don't know who.
Does the collaboration cause any like generosity?
No, because I mean, you're still talking about 2 beers out of how many? I mean, genericity needs to be in widespread public use. So the term computer is a very generic term. You can't just say, I'm going to start a company called Computer Company, and I'm trademarking the term computer.
Well, it's like Xerox or photocopy or like Kleenex for tissue, right? Like a brand name that becomes ubiquitous.
Yeah, well, and that's more of a dilution issue, but yeah, it's the same idea.
Those brand names also pre-existed in common use of those terms.
Go ahead.
So if I owned a brewery, should I trademark every single one of my beer names?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you should. So that's really... Go ahead.
No, I think that one of the original kind of trademark issues was the Doppelbock. I couldn't remember the brewery, but Paul Anner, the Salvatore, like that was kind of like the a couple different breweries right after that tried to like brew that. This is back in like the 1700s. Like tried to brew with Doppelbock, and like the Salvatore was like the like name. That's where the ATOR like
Autor.
suffix came from. Yeah, like because then it was like, well, you know, like that's where that kind of like derived from. Was,
Yeah, I mean, Polliner could make the argument that if other breweries are using the ATOR suffix, that it's either diluting their brand or it's infringing on it. Sure.
They agreed to it. It's been in common use for 400 years.
Well, there you go. So really, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
the time for them to
like
do the time for them to do it is past. But they could have said that if I made a beer called something Autor today, and no one's ever done that before, I could trademark that, and then I could possibly sue it.
This was 17th century Germany. I don't even know if trademarks exist.
They probably didn't.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the same
But
kind
chopping
of
off heads did.
Thank
So,
you.
All the examples that you've given so far are like a brewery suing a brewery, or like Red Bull suing someone else that's like a company with the same name. What about like the Dogfish Head Namaste thing? Like they own a beer called Namaste, and they sent a cease and desist to a brewery that tried to open with the name Namaste.
Well, sure. I mean, that's a pretty textbook case of trademark infringement. I mean, whether it's a beer or it's a brewery, there's still a very strong likelihood of confusion there. I mean, Namaste is not. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain generosity to the term, but it's pretty unique when it comes to beer. And remember, I mean, when you file a trademark, you're confining it to a certain thing, which is Namaste beer is Namaste beer. But if you're making a car called Namaste, really not much of a likelihood of confusion. However, if you're opening a brewery called Namaste and someone else has a beer called that, there's a very strong likelihood of confusion. If I see it, and I've seen it before, I've gone into a store and seen Kentucky Bourbon's Barrel Stout, and then I see Bourbon County Stout, and they look, the labels are almost indistinguishable. There's a very strong likelihood of confusion there.
I think it's just a fun fact to note that the first trademark ever was Bass Ale, the Red Triangle. So beer had started this whole fight that we're talking about now that can cross industries and such, for
Well, you're welcome.
all this little thing.
British brewers were counterfeiting Bass and putting a red triangle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Until they did it in
Very first
1709, I
trademark
believe
issue.
it was.
Ooh, 1709.
Yeah, the good old days.
What a good year that
So
was.
that's all I have. Thank you all for being such a involved audience. It was nice to have questions in the middle of it. If you have any more, go ahead.
If I want to open a brewery, can I talk to you?
Yes.
Excuse me.
My card's right here. If you want to talk to me about beer, whatever, legal issues, feel free to take one.
Hey, there's a broom right between the two fridges. A broom in between the two fridges. Thank you.
But that's all I have, so thank you very much. Cheers.